Diiriye.
Mr. President, distinguished members of Security Council, SRRG Michael Keating, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Somali Federal Government, and colleagues, all protocol observed. It is an honor for me to speak before this esteemed council on the state of women's political representation in Somalia. For the limited time I have, I cannot go through all the key milestones in the 2016 electoral process of achievements, challenges, and lessons learned, and it's just distributed around. Mr. President, the Committee of Goodwill Ambassadors, which I have the privilege of chairing, was appointed by the Federal President of Somalia to help women secure 30% of the seats in both houses of parliament. That was the goal agreed by the country's political leaders in the National Leadership Forum. As in other countries, advancing women's political empowerment in Somalia is a challenging task, despite the huge contributions they make to the society. Women are often excluded from decision-making and leadership roles. In 2012, women were selected for only 14% of the states in the federal parliament. The National Leadership Forum's decision for the 2016 electoral process to reserve a minimum 30% of the parliamentary seats for women was therefore very encouraging. Mr. President, to achieve this objective, the Goodwill Ambassadors first carried out a clan mapping exercise showing the distribution of reserved seats per clan. The detailed mapping is attached also my notes just distributed around. We then launched an advocacy campaign involving civil society actors, political lobbyists, as well as the federal and state women's affairs ministries to secure the buy-in of political leaders and clan elders. We received numerous support and encouragement from the UN and the international community at large in our quest to realize the 30% goal, and I would like to thank largely to the partnership and collective efforts of Somali Federal Government, National Leadership Forum, Women's Affairs Ministries, civil society, women activists, UN Awesome Gender Office, UNDP, UN Women, EU IGAD AMISON, members of the diplomatic community. Women were elected to 25% of the seats in both houses of the new parliament, and my fellow Goodwill Ambassadors. It's substantial and unprecedented achievement for Somali women and for the society as a whole. Mr. President, in the course of our work, we faced numerous challenges and learned important lessons. Allow me to present a few of those lessons which should be considered in preparation for the 2020 universal elections. In the absence of legally binding provision, the political decision to reserve 30% of the seats for women was extremely difficult to enforce. No one was or could be held responsible and accountable for their action and inaction. A secured legal provision is therefore critical to advancing women's political equality. Security the reserved seats for women relied in a large measure on the will of clan elders, who are traditionally opposed to women's political participation. This affected women's ability to secure clan endorsement and to operate freely without threats and intimidation. A massive structural transformation is required to advance women's representation in politics and the democratization process in Somalia. Throughout the electoral process, women presented a unified position which served as a source of strength. The Goodwill Ambassadors, civil society, women's affairs ministries, we all worked in a united fashion, which had a very positive impact in our campaign. Lack of adequate financial and logistical support posed a significant challenge to women candidates during the campaign period. In addition, women were disproportionately affected by election-related corruption and abuses, which weakened their position vice versa the clan elders. The state-level electoral implementation teams and the state authorities provision for adequate support and the creation of level playing field will be critical to the success of women's candidates in the future. Mr. President, on behalf of the goodwill ambassadors, I would like to thank Government of Sweden, currently chair of the council, and UN Women who facilitated my trip to New York. I thank you, Mr. President, and members of all the council, your kind attention. Thank you.
I thank Ms. Ashagele for her briefing.